In this lesson, we're going to be looking at another method to solving systems of equations. We've already looked at solving systems by graphing and by the substitution method. Our next method is going to result in the same type of answers. Remember, your answer is going to be where your two lines intersect, so your answer is an ordered pair. Or, if you have parallel lines, your answer is no solution. And if your two lines are the same, your answer is infinite solutions. So we're looking at the same type of problems, but we're going to go about solving it in a different way. We're going to be using the elimination method. The elimination method is a method for solving systems by adding or subtracting. And we do adding or subtracting to eliminate a variable. This method has a few more steps than the other problems. The first step is one of the most important steps. First, you want to make sure that your equations are lined up. And we'll see what this looks like in just a minute. But it's very important as you work these problems that you keep everything lined up. Next, you want to either add or subtract the equations to eliminate the variable with the common coefficient. So you're looking for that common coefficient. Step 3, you're then going to solve for the remaining variable. Step 4, you're going to then substitute your answer into either of your original equations and then solve for the other variable. So similar to this substitution method, in step 3, you'll get half of your answer. In step 4, you'll get the other half of your answer. So make sure you follow through with all of the steps. Let's take a look at an example. Number 1, we want to make sure in step 1 that our equations are lined up. What this means is that we want the terms that have a y to be right underneath each other, the terms that have x's to be lined up with each other, and our constant terms to be lined up. And you can see in number 1 that this is the case. Our y terms are here. We have our x terms, even though they're different, they're still lined up. And then even though our coefficient or our constants are different, they're still lined up also. So once we have everything lined up, we can move on to step 2. We're either going to add or subtract to eliminate the variable with the common coefficient. So when I take a look at this one, our common coefficient is going to be our y's. Now, we need to either add or subtract to eliminate those. So remember, to eliminate, it's going to equal 0. So in order to eliminate them, I need to subtract. So we're going to subtract these two equations. Y minus y is 0. Bring down your equal sign. We're going to subtract all the way across. So 3 minus that invisible 1 is 2x. And then 4 minus negative 2. So we're subtracting from here, and this 2 is a negative. So we got to be careful of that. 4 minus negative 2 is like saying 4 plus 2, which is positive 6. So then we're going to continue solving for the variable I have left. The only variable I have here in this step is x. So I'm going to solve for x. And in order to do that, I need to subtract 6 from both sides. which gives me negative 6 equals 2x, and then divide both sides by 2, which results in x equals negative 3. So this is the first half of my answer. Step 4, I'm going to substitute my answer into either one of my original equations. So when I take a look at my original equations, I'm going to choose y equals x minus 2. And I'm going to take my answer and I'm going to substitute it in to that equation. I found that x was negative 3 as my answer, so I'm going to substitute in negative 3 for x. So I'm going to rewrite my equation, y equals negative 3 minus 2. And then solve, y equals negative 5. So there's the other half of my answer. Remember, just like with graphing and the substitution method, my answer is going to be an ordered pair, where my first number is x and my second number is the y value. So I'm going to replace x with negative 3, and I'm going to replace y with negative 5. So my final answer is negative 3, negative 5. And if I were to graph these two lines, I would see that they cross at negative 3, negative 5. Let's take a look at number 2. My first step is to make sure everything is lined up. I have my x values lined up. I have my y values lined up, even though they're different. And I have my constants lined up, even though they're different. So next, what I want to do is either add or subtract to eliminate my common coefficient, my common variable term. So my common term is going to be my x's. So I want to eliminate those. That means I want to make them 0. So in order to eliminate them, I need to subtract. Because when I subtract, x minus x is 0. It cancels out. But I'm going to subtract all the way through. So 4y minus negative y, which is 4y plus y, is 5y, equals 13 minus 3 is 10. Make sure you're subtracting all the way across. I'm going to divide both sides by 5, and I find that y equals 2. So here's the first half of my answer. My next step is to substitute that answer into either one of my equations. It doesn't matter which equation you choose. I'm going to choose the second one, x minus y equals 3. And I'm going to substitute my answer into that equation. And since it says y equals, I'm going to substitute that answer in for y. So I'm going to rewrite my equation, x minus 2 equals 3. I'm going to add 2 to both sides, and I get that x equals 5, which gives me the other half of my answer. So my final answer is 5, 2. Make sure that when you're writing that final answer that you're putting your x value first and then your y value. Go ahead and highlight number 3 and 4. And then on the next page, let's take a look at number 5. So using the elimination method, first we want to make sure everything is lined up. I have my x values lined up. I have my y values lined up. And I have my constants lined up. So now I can decide if I need to either add or subtract to eliminate my common variables. My common variables are 4x and 4x. I can add in order to eliminate this. 4x minus 4x eliminates to 0. 9 plus 7 is 16y, and 5 plus 11 is 16. To finish solving it, I'm going to divide both sides by 16, which results in y equals 1, the first half of my answer. Then I'm going to pick one of my two equations, one of my two original equations. I'm going to choose 4x plus 9y equals 5. And I'm going to substitute in my answer into that equation. I'm substituting it in for y because my answer says y equals. So I'm going to rewrite that 4x plus 9 times 1 equals 5. And then I'm going to solve it. 4x plus 9 equals 5 because 9 times 1 is 9. Subtract 9 from both sides. That gives me 4x equals negative 4. And then divide both sides by 4, which would result in x equals negative 1, the other half of my answer. So I have a final answer of negative 1, 1. Again, make sure you're putting your x value first and your y value second in your final answer. Go ahead and highlight numbers 6 through 11.